Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Masimo webinar. You've joined the distributor and dealer session for APAC and Europe, and today it's all about Marantz. We're very excited today to introduce the brand new flagship 10 series consisting of the Model 10, the SACD 10, and Link 10 reference hi-fi components. So presenting today are Andy Kerr, the Director of Product Marketing, joining us from the UK, and Begüm Tomruk, who's Creative Director of our Luxury Design Group, joining us from Germany. Everyone knows me, I'm Frederick, based in Hong Kong. So without further ado, handing it over to Andy.
Hi everybody, thank you for taking the time to join us today. So we're going to introduce you to three new components. The details of these have already been put out to the public, but we wanted to take the opportunity to go through more technically and also in design direction the story behind them. Of course, you'll all be familiar with the Marantz brand, but at the same time, it's worth also just reminding you of the story of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So a quick reminder, of course, it all begins in 1953 with Saul Marantz and the idea of a person wanting to combine the best in product design with the best in product performance. It was an unusual idea at the start because, of course, most hi-fi was always focused first and foremost only on performance, but Saul, with his background in industrial design, recognized that these components had to not only sound great but also look great if they were going to get widespread acceptance into more consumers' homes. And that's always been a key thing of all Marantz products since, but as you'll see, it's a very fundamental part of the 10 series. So our story begins in New York, and the brand is born in New York, but of course these days it also has strong roots in Japan. So we talk about born in New York and crafted in Japan with our incredible manufacturing facility in Shirakawa and the highly experienced artisans who work there, particularly the famous sound masters working on tuning each component to deliver the best possible performance. And those two roots provide the heritage points that form the structure of the story. We've got products that look great, and products that sound great. They are products for those who value premium sound, but also premium design, with a classical warmth, not only to their audio performance, but to their tactility, to the way that you want to touch them, interact with them. A Marantz product is more than something that just sits on the shelf. It's something that you feel proud of owning, proud of displaying, and also something that you genuinely want to interact with every single day. And all the design details, as Begüm's about to talk to you about, are set up to create that. What's the intent for growth? Well, the idea is to produce products that appeal, of course, first and foremost to the classical traditional audiophile. And of course, that means great quality sound, great performance in all regards. But at the same time, we're also seeking to grow our visibility to the indulger, to the consumer who likes luxurious experiences, who likes great quality componentry in all aspects of their lives, from cars through watches, furniture, and more. And also the status seeker. People who value overt design, people who value things that really make a statement about who they are, where they are in their lives, and what they're trying to achieve. So the products that we're about to present to you fulfill all three of those requirements, and at the same time they also both stay true to the Marantz design heritage and point to Marantz design future. But in that regard, I'm going to hand across to my colleague who can talk to you in more detail about that. Over to you, Begüm.
Thanks so much, Andy. So before we deep dive into the Marantz 10 series, I would like to take you through the Marantz design and the design identity of the brand. So if we look at the industrial design DNA, we are talking about four signature elements: circle, tactility, symmetry, and illumination. So through these signature elements, we can differentiate the Marantz brand, but also stay consistent through the industrial design DNA. Circle is representing the porthole, the iconic porthole we have in our previous heritage amplifiers that carries over to today and also to the future and how it evolves. We will see a great example of that with the Model 10 from the 10 series collection. Tactility is all about precision, authenticity in materiality, craftsmanship. We basically celebrate the material, and we are very honest with that. And whatever we do is really adding contribution to the sound quality. Symmetry inform elements and branding. So symmetrical approach has always been part of Marantz design DNA. If we look at the previous amplifiers, you will see that the branding always stays in the center. all the dials and all the construction of the front panel, including the overall design, has a symmetrical approach. And this also applies to the 10 series collection. And illumination, which is a great part of the user interaction and experience that was part of the Marantz products since decades. And we will also celebrate that with the 10 series, with the illumination on the front panel, behind the front panel, but also in the interior design of the Model 10. We will also see the phone language. We spoke about the porthole and how it becomes an iconic role in the design. But also as a phone language, we have direct transitions. So Marantz design is very puristic, very honest to geometry. And through these, when you look at the dials and all the geometries that Marantz product has, you have this direction and pure transitions and pure intersections into the forms. We will also look at what other design principles differentiate the Marantz design. Marantz mark, of course. The crafted classic Marantz logotype has stayed stylistically unchanged for more than 70 years, and it has evolved with the needs of the times, yet still represents our heritage, craftsmanship, and relentless pursuit of audio excellence. And more to that, we will also talk about the Marantz star. Probably a lot of you know that we had this engraving of Marantz star in the on the heritage Marantz amplifiers, but now it lives on the other aspects of design as a digital way or as a user experience. So we will see that in the Model 10 digital display on the porthole as a digital detail when you switch on your amplifier, but also on the future upcoming Marantz products as a beautiful design detail that celebrates the user experience and the functionality. And of course, the Marantz pattern that we will see, which is beautifully designed. It's representing the distribution of sound, really celebrating that, but also in combination with illumination, it is creating a very elegant look and feel. And how we use that, here you see some examples. For example, the Model 10 and 10 series front panels, the pattern is carved on the metal surface, but also on the top mesh cover of Model 10 and Model N1, for example. And even stretching towards the automotive guidelines in a nice way in combination with the branding and illumination, and also on the future products. Through the porthole evolves to the bookcase, and it comes to today and goes beyond what we will see today. It has been a defining element of Marantz design DNA for decades, starting from analog porthole direction, and then it was digitalized with the current amplifications. And with Model 10, we will see a digital transition, but still carrying the analog design materiality, which is creating a great blend with the past and the future. And it will continuously evolve because we want to get the inspiration from the past, but we also don't want to stick to the past and repeat ourselves. We have to evolve. Coming slowly to the 10 series, here you see Model 10, and we definitely see some echoes of classic Marantz products in this collection, especially Model 7, 8, 9, 10. Here as an example, Model 9, we see the porthole, how it has been evolved coming to Model 10, but also we will look at the materiality and the use of brushing details and spin finishes and how it can be transformed to the 10 series on the next slides. As an example, the porthole display from Model 9 was an analog test meter used for tube biasing. So we took that as a beautiful design detail, and we switched to a digital because we also want to have a great visibility on the OLED display screen, but also a great experience. And the brushing detail and all this like craftsmanship was still embedded on the Model 10, carved directly on the front cover, and still carrying this iconic look and feel of the Marantz products. And we will also talk about the brushing details, how Model 9 inspired the 10 series with this beautiful brushing direction, and even the spin finish on the dials and the diamond cut details precisely executed on the 10 series. And we will also see that on the black version, because the collection is available in champagne, but also in black. And here you can truly see the Marantz pattern, the brushing details, and the spin finish and the diamond cut details. And of course, color, material, and finish. The same color as the current reference series champagne was used for the 10 series as part of the black CMF direction. And we also took the inspiration from the brushing direction and also the dial spin finishes for the entire collection, and really stayed true to the design DNA, symmetry, and everything else that we have in the brand album. And the interior design, which truly exposes and celebrates the interior design of Model 10 with the beautifully executed Marantz pattern as a mesh cover. But with illumination, we truly reveal the components, the interior design, and how it was constructed. We celebrated for really this beauty and how symmetrically even the interior design is designed, but also the sound quality, because these components really bring the sound quality, and this is a great celebratory way to do that, even the transformer case and the Marantz carved logo and the beautiful spin finish. So it's truly a hero product from the collection. And last but not least, about design, the 10 series recently won IF Design Award and Good Design Award Japan. So this is a proof of the amazing work that our design team in Japan and also the engineering team put together for bringing this collection to life. So it's a great achievement to celebrate. I will hand it over to Andy, so he will take you to the deep dive to the 10 series.
Thanks, Begüm. And obviously, guys, you know, this is a really important aspect of very premium hi-fi that we've emphasized a lot and spoken to you a lot about in the presentation just now. These are serious products with very highly credible components behind them, but also unlike anything else in the space in terms of how they look, how they feel, the materiality, the tactility. I mentioned jokingly earlier on, if you were a particularly dull, boring person, you could, if you wanted to, turn the lighting off on the 10 series amplifier, but once it's on, you'll never want to have it turned off. But it could create such an incredible allure to the product and makes it much more engaging, and I'm sure your customers will feel the same. Excellent. There we go. So 3 reference standard components. We have the SACD10 reference SACD player, the Model 10 reference integrated amplifier, and the Link 10N reference network audio player, although there's a lot more to that product as well, and we'll come to that shortly. Now, what we're going to do is go into a technical deep dive. Now, guys, there's an awful lot of information to be shared about all of these products. Don't worry, there won't be a test afterwards. What we want to do here is give you some insight into the quality of the componentry, some of the choices that have been taken in the componentry, also to help you to understand the purpose behind these products. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is literally on a build up. So what we'll do is build up the product from literally the feet all the way through to the finished product, so you can get a sense of what's going on. But we begin with Model 10 and look at the overview. Model 10 is the most powerful integrated amplifier that Marantz has ever made. Now, of course, in the space that it operates in, it's perfectly possible for the customer to choose a pre-power amplifier instead. You will all know the reasons why pre-power amplifiers exist. It is an argument that a pre-amplifier is separated away from the power amplifier, giving it a pure tonality, giving it the chance to be separated away from noise generating circuitry in the power supply and the power amplifier. And the combination of the two gives you a cleaner, more accurate, more musical system. The intent with Model 10 is to combine those two elements into a properly separated and cleanly shielded internal construction all in one case. So as you'll see when we go through this product, it essentially is a completely separated preamp stage, completely separated left and right power amp stages, all mounted inside one external chassis to create something that's elegant, but at the same time has all the performance advantages of a fully separated set of componentry. So the amplifier technology is based around Purify. Purify, I'm sure you'll be very aware of. The important point to emphasize is it's not a generic off-the-shelf Purify amplifier module. It's taken working with Purify and developed by Marantz and manufactured in the Marantz facility in Shirakawa to produce the best possible combinations of power, but also musicality, and most importantly, very, very low distortion. At half volume level, that's not a typographical error there. The distortion level is an incredibly low 0.005% THD. Power is huge, more than ample for the majority of loudspeakers. 250 watt stereo clean into 8 and 500 watt into 4. Should you so wish, you can use multiple amplifiers, and we'll discuss how to achieve that shortly. There's also additional functionality that allows you to select the power amplifier only mode for this product, but again, I'll discuss why you'd want to do that shortly. Incredibly good current flow, which doesn't vary with gain, so the ability for the product to really deliver clean, low distortion sound all the way through the frequency ranges there all the time regarding load impedance. As I mentioned already, a full dual mono design, fully symmetrical, fully balanced throughout with individual power supplies left to right, and incredibly clean in terms of design and layout. One of the advantages of the design is already been illustrated to you by Begüm, is you can look inside. You can see just how beautiful it is. But of course, if you can look inside a product, then naturally you're revealing everything about it, and that means everything has to be laid out and designed to the highest possible standards. There are no stray loose wires and ugly solder connections inside this product. Everything is copper bus bars. Of course, that produces a beautiful look. It also has tremendous performance advantages because it reduces output impedance, and that means this is a very clean sound all the way through, as you shall hear when you get the chance to experience it. So let's go through that build-up that I mentioned. Now, all three models have the same initial platform, and you'll see, in fact, all three models share quite a few components, but beginning with this idea of super strong base plate, which is then copper plated to screen it, and then copper plated again with a separate screen. So it's a triple layer base chassis. Then we've got our dual mono power amplifier boards from Purify, left to right on the back of the system. Going forward, we have the power supplies, again individual, one for each one of those power amp sections. Then second floor, as we refer to, which shields each of the really delicate input stages and preamp stages from what's mounted below it in terms of power amplification. Then as we build up more, we've got the positioning for the power transformer with the case, and you can see that there with the individual power supplies left and right. The chassis also, of course, has provision for headphone amplifier. The headphone amplifier itself is also very high quality. And then we come to the fascia, which, as already has been mentioned, is a real, if you like, nod to the past in terms of its look and feel. It's also individually the most complex and most expensive component part in terms of the casework because of the various elements that go into it. It's very thick and very stiff. Even details such as the volume knobs in this product are of the highest possible quality, milled from solid, mounted on their own double bearings to produce incredibly smooth, damped and controlled functions, and of course very lovely and tactile to interact with too. That top cover mesh assembly is all important, of course, designed to allow you to look inside the product. Then we come to the side cheeks, massive constructions, almost 16 millimeter thick, solid alley, creating an incredibly strong and stiff casework. And of course, that's necessary for the maximum in terms of performance. Rear inputs is designed to have analog sources, of course, multiples of both RCA and XLR, all of the highest possible quality in terms of the terminals. You can easily also use the product with other amplifiers via the XLR and RCA outputs to allow you to serial connect to other amplifiers, for example, left and right. There's also, as you can see, inputs to allow you to connect it to a preamplifier and use it in power amp mode. And I'll come into the detail of that when we talk about the Link 10N product. Display on the front. The porthole, as has been mentioned already, iconic, hugely important to the band in terms of how it looks, how it feels, what it represents. And it's used here as the heartbeat of how you engage with the product, with a very clear volume control showing source. If you switch to another source, the volume temporarily gives way to indicate the different input that you've gone to, for example, balanced and so on. You can even select VU meter mode if you prefer. The display is super crisp, super clear, high resolution. The fine detail that you can see there in the image is not simulated. That is how accurately crisp it looks. And again, all of that's all important to generate the correct impression of the component. And even details such as the remote control has been considered. So it'll be a familiar Marantz remote control, but at the same time, it's built to higher standards. It's faced with aluminium, and it's, of course, in Marantz teal green, and the combination of those two give you the appropriately luxurious experience. It naturally is a system remote control, so it's capable of controlling not only the amplifier, but other Marantz components, such as SACD 10 and Link 10N. So the summary: a reference integrated amplifier, full dual mono design throughout, super clean, super low distortion, incredibly powerful, the most powerful integrated amplifier Marantz has ever made, able to operate in selectable power amplifier mode if required, designed around completely proprietary topography with completely proprietary amplifier technology, manufactured in-house in Shirakawa, built to the highest possible standards in terms of materials, and available both in Marantz Black and Marantz Champagne. Next product in the system is SACD 10. Now here, of course, the important point to emphasize is few brands, if any these days, manufacture their own CD mechanisms. Marantz is unique in that, well, not unique, but very special in that regard, because it's still one of the major brands doing it. So this is built around a Marantz built and designed SACD mechanism at the heartbeat of the system. And it's, again, a beautiful piece of engineering, an aluminium mechanism, no plastic componentry for a product like this. Otherwise, of course, as you can see, it's built on a common chassis, and using that massive architecture gives it the opportunity to create an incredibly stiff structure that resists vibration and unwanted resonance incredibly well, and that in turn helps to reduce jitter to very low levels. So that same construction of upper floor and lower floor, you've got the individual power supplies left and right, the power transformers left and right, one for digital, one for analog, then the central CD mechanism, again remembering an original Marantz SACD mechanism, and then all of that is separated away both from the point of view of mechanical and electrical noise from the top section, where the MMM circuitry, the Marantz musical mastering digital circuitry, is included, and that's key to delivering the high performance that goes into this design. Front panel, as per the other products, the Model 10 is a very high quality componentry indeed, super dense in terms of its construction. Of course, the display is somewhat different because there's more information to display, therefore, rather than being porthole oriented, it's horizontally oriented. Here, there's a somewhat different approach taken to the construction of the top plate because there's no mesh. The reason for that is an engineering choice rather than a visual choice, in a particular benefit of having mass into the top of the component to help further stabilize it because there's a moving mechanism inside. This component has a 12 millimeter thick solid aluminium plate, incredibly heavy. I can testify to that myself because I handled it in the Shirakawa factory as part of our visit earlier this year. And again, those near 16 millimeter thick side panels as well result in a total chassis construction which is supremely strong and supremely stiff, and therefore very good at helping the mechanism to do its job effectively, alongside the fact, of course, it's a high quality mechanism centrally mounted. In terms of digital capability, of course, MMM means full functionality for a very high resolution. the ability to deal with anything off SACD, means DSD functionality naturally, up to all forms of the highest possible resolution. As you would expect is the case with often with higher end Marantz CD players over the generations, you can also use the onboard digital inputs to take advantage of the high quality digital to analog conversion and use that with other sources. So you can feed both optical and digital sources in. There's also provision for USB of both flavors to go into this product. And again, you can feed out via both RCA and XLR balanced. The ideal combination with Model 10, of course, would be XLR balanced to create that fully balanced listening experience going into the amplifier. So that's the SACD10, the reference CD player. Again, completely proprietary, state-of-the-art SACD player based around unique Marantz technology, both in terms of disc mechanism, digital to analog conversion, chassis construction, and all the rest of it. No holds barred in terms of any of those elements, and finished in Marantz black or Marantz champagne. The third component takes some explaining, and the reason it does is because there's more to it. Of course, the Link 10N is a network audio player, as the name implies. Network audio player means it's capable of taking content via wireless sources such as HEOS. And naturally, of course, that means all the content available to any HEOS platform is available here. You also have access to Roon via Roon Ready, AirPlay 2, even Bluetooth if you want to do that. There are also multiple digital inputs as per SACD10 to allow you to connect digital sources in. And additionally, we provide an HDMI ARC for TV functionality. However, what might also seem surprising is the product also includes analog and phono inputs, plus a subwoofer output. And that's because Link 10N can also be used as a streaming preamplifier. So in certain system combinations, if you so wish, you can pair this product with a Model 10 and then connect every component that you own, including your beloved record player, into your Link 10N, select power amplifier mode on your Model 10, and all of a sudden you've got a very high-end pre-power combination with all of the functionality of any separated pre-power system, but in two extremely sophisticated components. So going through the construction, you'll see commonalities with SACD10 because some of those are there, as we've discussed already. As we build up, of course, we've got the phono module from Model 10. As I mentioned, there's no compromise in performance by doing that. The third full separation comes in because in addition to the MMM unit, we also have the HEOS module in this product, giving the ability to have all the HEOS functionality. So same as SACD10 with the addition of HEOS. Headphone amplifier also the same as Model 10, as you can see. And then we go into the faceplate as per the previous discussions, beautifully constructed, again with a large display to display artwork and additional information on the media that's being streamed or played from network drives. And then looking at the back panel, there's a lot of additional inputs on here compared to the SACD10, and all of those relate to the additional preamplifier functionality that Link 10N also can provide. Naturally, also as a network product, it's got Wi-Fi capability with the antenna. It's got network port, you can also see there, and that HDMI ARC functionality as well. This really is a very complex, sophisticated product, able to take almost anything you can think of, but then render it in the highest possible quality. So let's talk about how you can interact with this component in your system. It's a reference streaming preamplifier. It's a network audio player. You can use it as a traditional network audio player connected to any type of amplifier. That Model 10 is shown there, but it could be any type of amplifier, and simply use it via fixed outputs with no variable gain, either digital or analog, depending on the source, the amplifier that you're connected to. Stream content from it, and if you so wish, connect digital sources to it and your TV to it to take advantage of its high quality onboard DAC. Alternatively, if you switch it into streaming preamplifier functionality, you have the opportunity to take advantage of variable gain outputs, which means the volume control becomes live and gives you functionality, in which case it becomes your system preamplifier. All of your other sources can go into it, and that includes your record player and other analog sources with no compromise in terms of capability. And at that point, you would select power amplifier mode on your Model 10, or if you were using another power amplifier, you would use any brand of power amplifier if you so wish. You could even potentially connect a Link 10N into active loudspeakers if that was your choice. So Link 10N reference streaming preamplifier takes Marantz into new spaces. It brings new functionality, it brings Roon, it brings a lot of additional streaming capability into the ecosystem. It gives the audiophile the choice over a CD-only based system or a streaming-only based system, or of course, if they really want to, a combination of both to go alongside the super clean, low distortion capability of the Model 10 amplifier. And that is the summary of that. Now, in terms of where we are in timing, Model 10 you will have seen was announced in late August going into early September and is in production, units are shipping. SACD 10 is also in production, units are shipping. Depending where you are in the world, Link 10N will be available in certain markets in November and in certain other markets going into early December, but again, it's in production. And when we have it in the market, it will have all the functionality that's just been discussed. So feel free to, of course, talk about it, ask more questions about it, look for more information about it. There will be demonstrations set up by colleagues across all markets to give you the opportunity to come and hear it for yourself. Further training, deep dive material is available, including even more in-depth. If you want to go even more in-depth into behavior on circuitry layouts and so forth, there's much more besides this. There's also opportunities to hear it at some audio shows. Some of you may have seen we had the system at the Ascot Hi-Fi show in the UK. It will be at the IES show in the Netherlands at the end of November. And there'll be multiple events, I'm sure, run by my colleagues, including Frederick, across markets and opportunities for you to hear the product, see the product there. In the meantime, anything you'd like to add, Begüm? If I think I've covered everything off there, I think at that point.
Yeah, I think you covered everything, Andy.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we're happy to take questions if there are any.
Actually, there's a question that just spoke to me. I was slightly wondering, 135 people and no questions, there's no way someone's got to have. So question from Adam, is the HDMI ARC, ARC only, or will it display album art on the TV as well?
It's ARC only.
I think it's only one direction, right?
Yeah, it's ARC only, correct. Yeah, so it won't display album art on the TV, that's correct.
I'm going to ask you, Andy, a question. What about pairing? Any good suggestions for the Model 10 in terms of our own speakers, for example?
Well, I mean, obviously, you'd expect me to say Bowers & Wilkins, right? I mean, we've used it from everything from 702 signature all the way up to 802 with great results. It's a phenomenally clean, phenomenally powerful design. I think if you go to our 801, the Bowers & Wilkins 801, we'd probably recommend maybe using 2 Model 10, because why not? I think the opportunity is there, and of course the system allows you to do that seamlessly. That in fact will be the system combination that we'll be demonstrating at the IES show. There'll be 2 Model 10s with a Link 10N, which I think will be very spectacular. But some of you may have seen some of the events that we've presented recently. Has just been a single amplifier, and this is unlike any single amplifier that you may have heard before. The ability for the product to not only render scale, but to render scale cleanly without distortion and to produce exceptional transparency is remarkable. That's a real focus. I mean, I think anybody can make something go loud. The intent here is to make something go loud, but in the highest possible quality.
Yeah, exactly. What struck us most is when we were demoing in August the Model 10 on a 702 signature, Series 3 that is the amount of soundstage. That's from a song that you already are familiar with. That was like day and night difference. It's like, wow, I did not know it could go even further. So it goes to show on how you're pairing it, of course. So in the meantime, there's a couple of extra questions that came in. How do you access music files on a USB in the SACD 10, for example?
Yeah, so available. So you can literally go in through the back. It will read those files. You literally, the display at the front will show you what's going on, and you just skip forward and back using the remote handset. That was something that we were doing very successfully in demonstration. If you were to do it with Link 10N, of course, you could access it via HEOS as well, which is also a very convenient way of doing it. But with SACD 10, files go in, go to the USB input on the remote handset. The content that you've got on the files will be read and displayed as available tracks, and then you just skip forward and backwards in the same way as you would if you were playing a CD.
Excellent. Good question for professional studio applications. What about 19-inch rack mounting? I'm not sure. That's a very good question. Are we thinking of rack mount, like the ears on the side?
No, to my knowledge, I mean, width-wise, it probably would fit, but to my knowledge, there is no plan at the moment for rack mount on these components.
Question for amp in bi-amp mode. Is it possible to change the crossover frequency? That's a good question.
No, so no, it's you're leaving that. So by amplifier mode, there's no crossover mode adjustment.
Using a Link 10's DAC give you better performance is there a serious difference? That's probably comparing the Link 10 stack versus the, okay, so how would you do? You have MMM both in the SACD 10 and in the Link 10, but they're equal, they're exact the same.
It's the same, yeah. Yeah, so no,
no
there's
difference.
no difference in that regard at all, no. I mean, obviously, clearly, you know, I guess the use case there is if you've got USB files. I presume that's what the question is, because I can't see any other commonality of content, right? Disk is disk, so you can't get that into Link 10. So I presume it's USB. Is it USB into SACD 10 or USB into Link 10? No, there's no difference.
That makes perfectly sense. Some comments from our colleagues in Australia, Melbourne. So Adam was saying it was the talk of the show of the weekend in Melbourne, the Model 10, obviously. We have, says John Martin, running the 802D Force, and it's spectacular. The sound stage is unbelievable details.
Good.
So there you go.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I mean, as I said, right, it's a good match. It's a surprisingly good match when you think about it, right? Because it's an exceptional amplifier, but the speakers that it's driving are, you know, more than twice the price. But yeah, incredible.
Interesting question about resolution bitrate. When will 32-bit capability be added?
So it's in the plan. In terms of functionality in that regard, I think we're launching with one set of functionality, and very, very shortly afterwards. You're referring to Link 10 in here specifically, right? Yeah, I think at launch. Yeah, I think at launch it will be somewhat more constrained, but very, very shortly afterwards there's an over-the-air, and it's nothing to do again with functionality. I think the team felt that there was some minor stability, reliability issues that they weren't comfortable with, so they've taken the opportunity or taken the choice right now to limit it, but it will come very, very shortly after launch.
Okay, moving on. If you are using a complete system comprising of SACD 10, Link 10, and Model 10 amplifier, is there an advantage to connecting the SACD to the Link 10 as a preamplifier and switching the Model 10 to power amp mode?
Yeah, I mean, certainly running the Model 10 in power amp mode, from my experience, gives it a cleaner sound. I mean, which is logical, I suppose, because the whole power amplifier section on the product is you know, then doing only one job. And I think it's measurable as well in some of the very deep dive documents that Frederick and I got. One, I think you can find it in there. You can actually see measured response that shows it behaving cleaner when you put it in power amplifier mode. So absolutely, that's the way to run it. Obviously, the great advantage of that then is you can have any combination of other sources, not just SACD 10, all going into the Link 10. So yes, if you owned all three, that's definitely what you should do.
Yeah, I agree. A question for the Model 10, the new mesh on top of these Marantz, simply for aesthetic reasons only, or does it also assist with heat dispersion? And what about dust being trapped in the mesh?
There's a small amount of heat buildup. I mean, in any amplifier, there's a small amount of heat buildup. Of course, a purifier module runs thermally much more effectively than a traditional Class AB amplifier. But of course, there's still heat generated. So yeah, there are some thermal benefits. We're not to the world of requiring forced air cooling or anything like that. It's chimney only, but and obviously that alongside, you know, the mass of the casework, which also works very well. So yes, it's mostly aesthetic, a little bit functional. At the same time, and I'm sure somebody's going to ask this question, so I'll say it now. On the SACD 10, it's not present, and the reason it's not present is because we wanted the additional mass of the 12mm thick aluminium top plate, which, as Frederick and I will tell you, is an incredibly heavy component part, but required to deliver the additional vibration isolation control in the construction of the cabinet. So we have a slightly different approach across those two, but again, for good reasons. Dust, it's well managed. There's a small amount of screening underneath the vent to allow or help control that. I think honestly, any component with an open top there's a degree of possibility of dust going into it. But I mean, if you've got a €15,000 amplifier, I'm hoping you're going to clean it.
Yes, I would suggest microfiber cloth or a handheld vacuum cleaner at very, very, very low power, just to
Yeah.
make sure that the dust is away from it, and you should be good.
Yeah.
Any chance for Chromecast support down the line for the Link 10? That would require a hardware update, I think. It's not possible to do that software unless you add it externally, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, at the moment, the only way would be external. Take it on board as input. I mean, the guys, I will say, I'm hoping you're aware of this in terms of HEOS in general. HEOS has been significantly expanding its functionality over the course of the past year. I mean, going to tidal high resolution, excuse me, this year was big story. There's more to come. There are other streaming services we probably shouldn't announce publicly, but there are other streaming services on the way very shortly, including one particularly famous one that offers higher quality, which we're excited about, and the room functionality. Well, so there's some really good news continuing to roll. A Chromecast, as Frederick has said, at the moment not on the plan, but you never say never in terms of how it can be looked at.
Are we looking at a multi-channel unit in this series? I mean, we have the AV10 M10.
Yeah.
Right?
So currently, no. Currently, the approach is if you wanted a multi-channel system, you would use AV10, AM10, or I mean, let's talk about the extreme version of this way of looking at things. You have an AV10 as your HDMI, processing core, and then you have multiple Model 10s driving your left, center, right, for example, and then an AM10 driving your surrounds and overheads in a very exotic multi-Marantz component system that's very state of the art and probably only for a very select few. But in regard of traditional integrated multi-channel amplifiers, the current premium solution available from Marantz is the AM10.
Question, actually two questions regarding subwoofer integration and low high pass filters. Can we explain how you would use a separate sub on the Link 10, for example?
Yeah, so you've got full control in the same way as you had with, or you would expect to have with any sub integration. So you've got the ability to control high and low, you've got the ability to adjust phase, you've got the ability to adjust gain. It's I would suggest probably something that a lot of users in this space, particularly in European markets, might not be so interested in, but in American markets, we know it's an important thing to incorporate. So yeah, there's extensive subwoofer functionality in there.
Good question. If you're using the Link as a preamp, does the volume control for all inputs works as an analog preamp? I mean, there is a volume control on the Link 10. That's why we put it there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it does, yeah.
Okay, would there be a scope for a dedicated power amplifier without the integrated circuits, both for a quality and better pricing perspective, just to be used with the Link 10?
It's a question that we've had from several people. Believe me, it's not the first time it's been asked, and something that indeed, when Frederick and I were together in the summer, we put back to our colleagues there. At the moment, no, because this is the start of the story. I think if we get more input and feedback from people, it's something that could be considered. Right now, the answer is no, but again, never say never on that one. What I will say is think about it in the other way. This is a story that you could start with an integrated amplifier and then build up to a preamp with 2 power amps over time without having to change the first component that you bought. And that's actually quite cool and quite unusual when you think about it. Not many hi-fi systems out there offer you that opportunity to scale.
Yeah. Adam was suggesting a solution for Chromecast. So obviously Chromecast to the TV and then back from the TV using ARC, and you have your Chromecast functionality, so to speak. On that note, does the Link 10 Model 10 have AV bypass?
That's a great question, and I'm going to have to come back to you and check on that one. I understand the question, but without having the information in front of me, I don't want to take a guess on that one. I'm sorry, I'll have to check on that one.
Okay, that's it. Andy, any closing remarks?
No, I mean, thank you guys for your attendance, and as I've already mentioned, there's a huge amount of information available on these products. We hope you appreciated being able to see the detail inside, but really that's just scratching the surface. We haven't even begun to talk about some of the other stuff that's involved. So I'd urge you to take the opportunity to connect with your local market representatives across the business who will be very happy to help, both in terms of providing more technical information, more background information, more design information, supporting you with demonstrations and so on. We're very excited about these products. Of course, input's always important and we appreciate it, but there's a lot more to come in terms of demonstrations and other things. We think we're onto something exciting here.
Great. We're working on a playlist for those who do demos, and so we'll be sharing that with you too as well. Watch out for more invitations for more webinars, and until then, until next time. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.